Hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Bella and I go by TheBellaFix. If you're not new here, what's up? I am so happy you are here for this week's video. If you already know me, you know I am in New York City. I am a wife. I am also a mom, and this vlog speaks about lifestyle, self-care, and motherhood as I navigate it in my 30s. I also have a child with autism spectrum disorder, so I like to give a lot of tips and tricks on how I navigate that as well. So today we are going to simply talk about how to discipline children from different age gaps. Yes, it's going to be a good one. Sit down, take out a notepad, get a pen, get your favorite drinky drink, and tune in, okay? But before we even get into that, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, follow me on Instagram and on TikTok for daily updates, and feel free to please comment anything that you relate to, anything that you and I could talk about. Trust me, I'm always in the comments. I love hearing back from you guys. I feel like this is really a big community that is slowly building up, and I'm very excited to see all the connections that I make, especially when it comes to parenting and lifestyle in New York City, because it's chaos over here, okay? I would like to start by saying I am a millennial. My husband is also a millennial. He is from the 80s, I am from the 90s, but we are very close in age. It's always funny because people think I'm actually older than him, which I'm not. But I'm always like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I let people think I'm older, but that's really not the case at all. Anywho, we are millennials that we both grew up in the Bronx. I, however, was born in Puerto Rico. He was born here in the States, but we were both raised in the Bronx. Different sides of the Bronx. New York, if you don't know where the Bronx is one of the 5 boroughs in New York City. I'm in New York City, so sorry, disclaimer if you're watching this from a different place. Anyhow, we were both raised in the Bronx, completely different lifestyles, very different lifestyles, and that is so important to say as a footnote before I get into how I parent my kids, how I discipline my children, because even though we're millennials, we're both Latinos, we're actually both Puerto Rican, and we were both born in the Bronx. I mean, not born in the Bronx, but we were both raised in the Bronx around the same time frame. We have very different upbringings, and that plays a huge part in how we discipline our children. From what I have been told from hubby is that he had a very carefree childhood. I was told that he was one of those kids that he would be outside from morning to dawn, from morning to night, and he was just always outside. There wasn't much discipline as far as, not discipline. From what I've been told from hubby is that he didn't have a lot of hovering or micromanaging from his parents. His parents were very much carefree, doing their own thing, like, still being parents, but it was just a different time back then. It wasn't a lot of violence in the streets. The community always took care of each other, so the children were always outside together. Everyone watched out for everyone's children, so the children were allowed to be rummaging the streets. And my hubby expressed that that was one of the happiest times of his life because he had an actual childhood where he was always being just adventurous and having sports and just doing everything and anything. There wasn't much structure based on what he has told me. There was not a lot of structure with my hubby growing up, and because of that, he also was raised in a very laid back way. Like, he grew up very laid back, chill, because of how he has so much freedom. So hubby is very laid back, very chill, kids would be kids. Whereas I was raised on the completely other side of the Bronx around the same time period, but I was very structured. I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner and dessert every single day at home. My parents were very traditional, born and raised in Puerto Rico, and lived the majority of their lives in Puerto Rico. So technically, I'm not even a first generation immigrant. I'm not even a first generation American because I was born in Puerto Rico as well. My kids are first generation, but because of that, they had a lot of rules and regulations and structures from the island. My parents were raised with, you can drink water and juice during meals, but only drink soda at dinner. And if you even had pop or Coca-Cola, I'm saying pop because in certain places, certain regions of America, you don't call it soda, you call it pop. But in New York, you call it soda. If you even had that luxury, you were considered more middle class. So even though we were okay, we only really had soda for dinner. I was raised in a 2-parent household. My husband was raised in a 1-parent household. So the dynamics are very different also. My parents were there for every parent-teacher conference. I had a bedtime. I was not allowed anywhere near anybody. I was not allowed to go outside with my friends. I was not allowed to go to the movies. I never had a sleepover. It was very much a structured life. There was a rule where you had to eat everything that was on your plate. I could not leave the table until I ate everything that was on my plate. And that is a very traditional old school style parenting. And it wasn't more of a disciplinary thing. It was more so of a poverty thing. When you had food, you made sure you ate it. And those are things that, they brought from the island to New York. And raising me, that's kind of how I was raised. Versus my spouse, hubby has told me that, his parent would make any meal. If hubby didn't want to eat something, or if he wanted pancakes, he jokes and tells me all the time that he survived on pancakes and milk until he was like 7 because that's all he ate. My house, that was not going to work. I come from a very structured, disciplined childhood parenting style where hubby comes from a very laid back lifestyle. And I feel like in our relationship, we balance each other out because he can see my organizational skills, my appreciation for structure, and my appreciation for accountability and responsibility, and knowing the value and the importance of getting good grades in school and making sure that I am on top of certain things. Things do not fall apart because I had that upbringing, and it's just been instilled in me. I am not a laid back person. I am a very type A person. It just doesn't work like that for me. So he balances me out and he appreciates what I can bring to the table. So that was just disclaimer. This video is actually not about us, but it is about how we discipline our children. But I needed to put that in there so that you guys can understand where I'm going to go with this. With that being said, it is no secret that we have 6 children and we are physically raising 5 children within our home. And I gave birth to 4 of them. So there's no secret that we're a blended family. And with a blended family comes a lot of different dynamics. But one thing that we do have is that we both came with 2 Gen Z children. Yeah, we came with 2 Gen Z children. And we also created Gen Alphas together. So we have Gen Zs and Gen Alphas. And our Gen Zs are 2009, 2010. And our Gen Alphas are 2013, 2016, 2019, and 2020. So we have a very broad spectrum of children. However, we are millennials, my husband and I, and we were raised without technology. We were raised in an era where the internet, iPhones, computers, all of those things were just up and coming. Social media was just up and coming. YouTube, what I'm doing right now, was not a thing back then. So for us, disciplining was more on the lines of possibly getting reprimanded with, a belt or get a chancla thrown at us because, we are Puerto Rican. But social media and punishment with video games and Xboxes and taking away TV time, those type of things that didn't exist for us. When we come back to disciplining our children, we don't see, and I can hold myself accountable for this, I don't see the value or I don't see the importance of a video game or a computer or, TV time or a tablet or an iPad or a phone. To me, I can go hours without any technology because I wasn't raised with it. I wasn't born in that type of time. I didn't need it. So for me, disciplining my Gen Z child, to them, it would be like the end of the world when I say something like, give me your phone. And they're like, no, I can't. Oh my God, so dramatic. Or my other kid would be like, bro, very, very on point with Gen Z. If you're a parent to a Gen Z child, I see you. I feel you. We are here. And it would really be a shock to them, that type of discipline. Taking away their phone would be an actual discipline to my child. Versus me, as a parent, I'm like, that's no biggie. I don't know what's the big deal. Why are they so upset that I took away their phone? So that's one type of dynamic shift in which disciplining can be very different. You discipline At least me. And it brings me to my first main point. You cannot discipline how you were raised or how you feel like it would resonate with you. You have to discipline, coach, speak how they understand, what resonates with them, how they would be able to be like,
oh, no, I can't do that. Okay, this is actual punishment. Or I need to learn my lesson. Okay, mom means business.
If you try to discipline your child with how you were raised, it's not going to work because to them it doesn't make sense because they can't relate. So for me, discipline your child with the discipline of the era in which they were born into. Yes. Now, second point of where I'm trying to go with the disciplining in my household. Because I have so many kids and I have them in different age groups, I am very conscious of when I have to speak to my child. My husband and I, we do not discipline our child in front of their siblings. Extremely rare. It is extremely rare that I will allow myself or my partner to discipline a kid in front of their siblings. Why? Because every child is different. The discipline that I may have for my 6-year-old is not going to be the same discipline that I'm going to give my 16-year-old. Why? Because they come from different worlds. They're not going to understand it. And sometimes when you allow other children to be in the vicinity of a discipline, they can try to start comparing. Or, that sibling rivalry, that little back and forth. Oh, you don't do that for me. Or how come he gets to be, laid off easy? That's not fair. No, you don't want to digress. You don't want to get distracted. You do not want to shine light on something. You want to focus on the child that you are talking to and make sure that that child understands why they have a consequence to the actions that they made. And this is the follow through. So you want to make it about them, but you still want to give them that understanding that this is important and this is no joke. When you separate them from the rest of their siblings, they know it's kind of more of a serious conversation. So hubby makes sure we do not discipline our children in front of their siblings. Also, this has nothing to do with disciplining, but hubby and I, we do not argue in front of our children. We rarely argue. But if we do have to have a conversation, we don't do it in front of the kids. We will remove ourselves or we will wait with side eyes. We will wait until the kids are in the room or we can step away and we can hash it out. We keep the same energy on both accounts. Anything that has to do with a child, anything that has to do with us, anything that has to do with anything hostile, disciplining, lessons learned, anything, it is removed and it is done separately from the rest of the crowd. Always. That is number 2 when it comes to disciplining. Number 3, which I think is important, and honestly, sometimes I feel like I sound like my parents in the best way possible. I love to give nuggets of wisdom every chance I can. And I do this with all of the kids. I do it in their own language, I guess. But I do it in front of all of them. That way it makes it a little bit easier for me to discipline when I have to. Let's say we're in a public space and I can't really say anything, but one of my children needs their attention, to be, hey, look at me. That's not okay. My nuggets of wisdom allows me to say things in public or around other people that only that child would understand. Example, one of my daughters, my Scorpio baby, she loves to be the mom of the group all the time. I mean, this child is going to be the best mom in the world. She's very just type A like me. She's very caregiving. She's always trying to help and support. Like, she's very much on top of it. And that's just naturally how she is. However, sometimes, more often than not, this child will be my parrot. If I say, hey, don't do this or put that down, 2 seconds later, you will hear an echo and it'll be my child saying, hey, mommy said put that down. And sometimes it takes away what I said. It takes away the meaning behind what I said. And if I'm saying, hey, put that down because you're going to get burned, and then my child says, put that down, you're going to get burned, my child that I'm actually speaking to is not going to hear mom's concern, hey, I can get burned, I got to put this down. Their attention immediately goes to their sibling that they may feel like is antagonizing them. And they're no longer thinking, I'm going to get burned. They're thinking, why is she doing this? So to this particular child, to my Scorpio baby, I have a little quote that I tell her all the time. And I feel like in life, when she gets older, when I'm no longer around her, she's going to think of this quote and I'm not afraid to say that I know that she's probably going to say this to her children. I like to tell her, mind the business that pays you. Why? Because sometimes you get in trouble just for doing too much. And in this particular case, in a lot of cases, a lot of times when my child steps in to help me, she's actually not helping me. It actually makes it worse for my other child. And then it becomes a sibling fight. So I always tell her, mind the business that pays you. How does that help? A, she knows what I mean. To her, it registers as, all right, mommy doesn't need my help. Let me mind my business. Two, the other children around know that I am at the moment correcting her, or, not digressing from the situation, but I'm still paying attention so that they don't feel like they're being antagonized by their sibling. If I'm telling sibling A, hey, put that down, you're gonna get burned. Sibling B is saying, hey, mommy said put that down, you're gonna get burned. Now sibling A is probably thinking, oh, well, why is mommy letting her do that? In the moment, I turn and I'm like, hey, mind the business that pays you. That immediately rewires sibling A to think, okay, mommy took care of it. All right, I'm still in trouble. Let me put that down so I don't get burned. And then sibling B, child B, she's like, crap, let me go play with my dolls. Let me mind my business. But I can do that in public without it being something so, so out of here. My oldest, he loves to antagonize the little ones. And when I mean antagonize, remember, my two oldest are Gen Zs. They are still playful, but they're more rough. Like they're more plus they're boys, so they're always playing around. When I see that my oldest is in the line of sight, like the line is in the view, is in the middle of me disciplining my Scorpio child, the child that swears she's mom number 2, I can hear my oldest in the back, yeah, no, no, no. And I'm like, so to this child, I will turn around and say, yo, can you relax? But I would tell them this in a very adult-like fashion, in a very cut it. Your sibling is not going to understand that. That baby, that child is going to start screaming and crying. Oh, la, la, look at what he did. Look at what he did. He's always doing that. Very theatrical. But that is their age group. Like that is what they're going to do. It's more of a gentle parenting with this child versus the big one. With this one, I'm like, yo, stop it. And I will say it in front of her brother. I'll look at my child and I'm like, how many times do I have to tell you? Ignore him. No, he's literally doing it to bother you. The more you yell, the more you scream, the more he is going to continue. Now, that type of discipline works. This is something that I can do in public with people around. I am disciplining each child differently at the same time while still being considerate of all of the things. And this is light discipline. When it comes to bigger disciplining, it's hard. And it's actually kind of interesting because sometimes my Gen Z children are independent with their phones. They have a social life. They have sports and activities and this and that. And we do not raise our hands to our children. The older ones, the way they get disciplined is we will take away the technology, and or if they do something extreme, we will take away their social life or their sport. Whatever it is that will make them realize and snap out of it. And then we give them a timeline. We give them an actual timeline of what that is. You're not going to have your phone for a month. You cannot play this. You can't hang out with your friends. That works for my Gen Zs. My Gen Alphas, they don't have a social life. They're not really stuck. They're not in that mode. They're not teenagers. They haven't given importance to outfits and wardrobes and I gotta look good for school and I need to hang out and go to the like that's not in their brain. So I have to take away their phone, their tablet for the day. There's no video games in my house. I do not have not one console in my home. Yes, you're probably like, what? How? Who? I just don't have it. I don't have a PS5. I don't have an Xbox. I don't have a PlayStation. I don't have a Nintendo D. I don't have nothing. The only thing my children have are phones, and that's the oldest. The two oldest have phones, and I have an extra phone that the little ones share, and my little ones have tablets. That's it. They don't have anything else. So I can't really take away technology like that, but I'll just send them to bed early, or I'll make them clean something that they normally won't clean in the house. I remember one time they broke a very big vase that I had for a plant, and I think it was like $200 that I had paid for. So what I did was, it was 3 of them that were involved with the breaking of this vase. So what I did was I divided 200 by 3. It's 66. So it comes up to like I took the number 66 and I turned it into an hour format. So 60 minutes plus 60 minutes is 1 hour plus 6 minutes. So what I did was 3 kids, 1 hour each, basically. Came up to 3 hours total. I made them take paper towel and clean my walls for 3 hours. They had to pick walls in the house and just wipe down the walls to clean for 3 hours. And that was the amount of time that equivalated to how much money I had spent that they cannot replace. So you have to come up with creative things to discipline these children, especially Gen Alphas, because frankly, it's hard. But if you gathered anything from this video, I would say I'm going to leave it with this. You cannot discipline your child with how you were disciplined growing up, because they were not born in that era. So you have to discipline with the methods from the era that they're born into. 1. 2, you have to make sure that you're disciplining accordingly, specifically to your child and to their personality. Because if your child does not care for video games, punishing them with video games doesn't really make sense. If you have a child that is more soft-spoken and you're, more soft-spoken with this child, speaking to them in a normal tone is not gonna resonate. But if you raise your voice a little and say, what you did was wrong, that's gonna sting a little. And they're gonna understand, oh crap, I'm in trouble. If you have children with different age gaps, which I have a lot of, make sure that you discipline separately from all of your other children. You don't want to embarrass your child. You do not want to create a stigma with your child. Children are not perfect. Children are human, just like you and me. People are gonna have stints. They're gonna have times where they're just rebellious or they're just not in the mood. That Scorpio baby is the crankiest person on earth in the morning, but she is a sweetheart after 10 a.m. So, there's going to be times where you're going to have one kid that's doing a lot more things that require discipline. You do not want to discipline that child in front of their siblings, because then that creates like a problem child stigma or a stereotype, like, oh, I'm always in trouble and you guys are always laughing at me, or you guys are always antagonizing. Don't do that to your child. Discipline separate. And 4, is it 4? I think it's 4. Nuggets of wisdom. Nuggets of wisdom will help you a long way. My child, she knows when I say mind the business, or I don't even have to say it anymore. I just look at her and I'm like, what do I tell you? And she goes, mind the business that pays me. And I'm like, exactly. Thank you so much. Go back to drawing. And she does. Versus the big one, when he's doing something, I can look at him across the room and I'm like, stop playing. And he gets it. Bottom line, if you're going to discipline, because I am a firm believer that children do still need discipline and structure, it is a huge part, a vital part of society, because these children are going to be raised. They're going to grow up to be, hopefully, amicable members of society. They're going to need some type of accountability, some type of cause and effect, right from wrong. So they need to have some type of discipline. If you do not discipline your child, whatever way that feels for you, these people will be out there feeling entitled and feeling like the world owes them something. And frankly, the world does not owe you anything. So in my household, we discipline. Granted, every day is different. Every day, it's sometimes I definitely get headaches, but that's just how it has to go. Oh, I never even said, my husband doesn't really discipline. I mean, he does, but he's a big softie for the babies. The babies are his heart. Like, he is, like, they can get away with anything. The little ones can get away with anything when it comes to their dad. So the disciplining isn't really there. I tend to be the enforcer, which is what he calls me. But he will discipline the older ones. And he will have more, not really discipline, but we have more talks with the older ones. He has a lot of talks with the teenagers, because there are boys that are growing to become men, and he has that insight with them. So they're very close, and they connect on that level. That's something that I do not have with my sons. I'm not a man, so my husband is great with that. And if my boys do something outrageous, it could be 5 days before my husband will step in and say something. But he does that intentionally. He waits until time has passed, emotions are clear, and he actually has the time to sit down and focus on that child. So I think it's actually a great method. Sometimes doing things in the heat of the moment do not work. It won't register the way it needs to. So I love that. I love that for me. I love that for the family. I love that. I love how he does that. So usually whenever my boys do something, they will get told about themselves when daddy is off. because that's just what it is. I hope you guys understood how I discipline, how our family dynamic does it. I hope you learned a little bit of nuggets of wisdom. Let me know in the comments if you do any of these type of things. And yeah, I hope it works for you guys. It definitely works for my house. And again, I have a family of 7 in my home. I have 5 children in my home, and they range different ages. I have Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, and I am a millennial. My husband is a millennial. So we have all of the decades in one house. We also have the component that is New York City, which is a lot of chaos. So a lot of things are constantly happening, but we always make sure that we center, we focus, and we keep everyone grounded with individuality, even when it comes to disciplining. That is it. I hope you guys like this. Do not forget to like, share, repost, subscribe, follow me everywhere else, and I will see you guys next week. Mwah.